All right, so uh, are you ready to dive into another one with me? Today we're going to be tackling Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, okay.
And, the big question we always ask, right? Is this one actually worth your time?
That's the big one.
It's a classic. We know that much, but it's
Yeah.
also got all this, stuff surrounding it. Baggage, maybe?
Definitely baggage, yeah.
We got a pretty solid book review to work with here.
Okay.
And a ton of comments from actual readers on Goodreads.
Excellent.
So let's see what we got and see if this one's worth putting on that reading list.
Let's do it.
What do you say?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest right off the bat.
Okay.
This is a powerful book, but man, it's not an easy read.
Uh-oh.
It's really insightful about the time period when it was written, but it can be really tough for a modern reader,
Interesting.
For a lot of reasons, and I think we're going to get into that.
Okay, so maybe not like a light beach read?
No, not really.
So what's the story about, like, in a nutshell? Just the basics?
Okay, so the plot follows this young boy, Huck Finn,
Okay.
and he's running away from his abusive father.
Oh, what?
And he ends up on a raft going down the Mississippi River
Okay.
with Jim, who's a runaway slave.
Oh, wow. So already, like,
Intense.
right. And they have all these crazy adventures.
Yeah.
They meet all these wild characters.
Yeah.
And the whole thing happens in the South before the Civil War.
Oh, wow. So, like, serious historical context here.
Definitely.
Okay, so we get that it's this big adventure, but what makes Huck himself so interesting? Like, why should we care about this kid?
He's such a great character
Yeah.
because he's this rough around the edges kid,
Yeah.
no education, basically neglected by society.
Oh, wow.
But he's got this like really strong moral compass,
Interesting.
which is always fighting with what he's been taught his whole life.
Uh-huh.
And so he ends up helping Jim, even though he knows it goes against everything he's supposed to believe about slavery.
Yeah, what's interesting is the reviewer, Carissa, she said,
That his real courage isn't even running from his dad.
yeah,
It's that choice to defy everything.
absolutely.
And do what he thinks is right, even though everyone's telling him otherwise.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's what makes Twain so brilliant.
Yeah.
He creates this character who's like a product of his time, but also questioning everything about it.
It's like he's ahead of his time almost.
In a way, yeah.
Okay, but we got to address the big thing everyone's thinking, right?
Yeah,
This book uses that word a lot,
yeah,
and that makes a lot of people really uncomfortable.
for sure.
How do we reconcile that? Like, how can it be this classic if it's got this, like, really difficult language?
It's a huge question, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
Twain uses that word a lot because that was just how people talked back then. It was the reality.
Right.
So it's accurate,
Mhm.
but it's definitely jarring. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There was one reader, Petra, who was really against those editions that try to replace it with robot or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was saying that it basically whitewashes history. That she felt like we need to actually confront the original language to really understand how brutal that time was.
I mean, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
It's like trying to pretend it didn't happen instead of learning from it.
Right, exactly. And it's a big debate.
Yeah.
I mean, the Goodreads comments are full of people going back and forth about this.
Really?
Some people just couldn't finish the book because they were so offended. Others said it's like essential to understanding the whole context.
So it sounds like there's no right answer.
No, it's a personal decision, for sure.
Yeah, and something each reader has to decide for themselves.
You got it. And it's important to remember that Twain himself wasn't like endorsing this language, right?
Right.
He was using it to show us how things really were
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
and to make us see how ugly racism was.
So he was trying to make a point.
Exactly.
Okay, I get that. But all of this sounds really heavy.
Yeah.
Is there any humor in this book at all?
Oh my God. Tons.
Yay.
Twain was like the master of satire and being
Yeah.
witty,
Yeah.
And there was this one reader, David,
Yeah.
who compared Huck to a neglected kid in a Walmart shopping cart.
Like running around.
Yeah, just like lost and wandering.
That's hilarious.
It's that kind of dark, unexpected humor that makes it so you don't get totally bogged down.
Okay, I needed that
Right.
Walmart and Huckleberry Finn. Who knew?
Right. But that's Twain. He
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
you laugh and think really hard at the same time.
Interesting.
Another reader, Ahmad, was saying that it's not just about racism.
Ooh.
It's about satirizing religion, Southern culture,
Right?
even the idea of like romantic adventure.
Wow.
He's making fun of all of it,
Yeah.
showing how hypocritical and ridiculous it all is.
So this is like a book that's saying a lot.
It is.
So I got to ask then, like, is this a book everyone should read?
That's a tough one. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And the language is a big barrier for a lot of people.
Right.
But it's a book that shows you America's past, like a window into what it was really like.
Mm.
And it makes us look at some stuff about ourselves that's not so pretty.
Yeah, it sounds like a book that really gets under your skin.
It does. And I think a lot of that comes from the relationship between Huck and Jim.
Oh, yeah.
It's more than just like a kid helping a runaway, right?
Okay.
It's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
They actually learn from each other.
Oh, that's cool.
They challenge each other.
Okay.
And as they go down the river, their connection just gets stronger.
So, like, their friendship is showing us the bigger problems the book's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like a mini version of what's happening in the whole country.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And there's this one reader, Blaine, who said that the whole book is about Huck's internal struggle.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like he's constantly fighting with what he's been told about slavery.
Yeah.
Versus what he's seeing with his own eyes with Jim.
Right, because he sees Jim as a person.
Right. And there's that famous line where Huck says he'd rather go to hell than betray Jim.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard that one.
It's powerful, right?
Yeah, that's intense.
He's going through this huge moral change on this journey.
And the river's a big part of that, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a background.
Yeah.
It's like a symbol for freedom, for escaping.
Okay.
For things always changing.
I see it now.
Yeah.
Like, this book is way more than just an adventure.
Right. It's doing so much at once.
Yeah.
There's the adventure part, there's the social message, and then there's this deeper level about human nature and what's right and wrong.
Okay.
And Twain's just so good with words.
Yeah, we talked about
Like, you can hear those people talking,
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you're right there on the raft with them.
You mentioned the language before.
Yeah.
And we talked about, that word.
Uh-huh. But is there anything else about Twain's style that stands out to you?
Oh, totally. His satire's brilliant.
Okay.
He doesn't just say what's wrong with society. He shows you through these crazy situations that are hilarious.
Oh, give me an example. Okay, so there's this whole part where Huck and Jim get mixed up in this feud between two families.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Okay.
But it shows you how violent and ignorant the South was back then.
It's like he's making fun of us.
Yeah, in a way he's making us laugh at ourselves.
Even if it hurts a little.
Exactly. And that's why it's still relevant today.
Oh, how so?
Because we still have the same problems.
Yeah, true.
We may not have those kinds of feuds anymore.
Right.
But we still have prejudice, greed, ignorance, all that stuff.
Different forms.
Yeah, just dressed up differently.
Okay, so now I'm thinking maybe this should be required reading.
Yeah.
But I know some people hate reading classics.
Yeah.
Like, is this one going to feel like homework?
I mean, it's not a quick, easy read for sure.
Okay.
You got to put in some effort and be open-minded, but it's so worth it in the end.
Yeah.
This is a book that will stay with you.
So it's like it makes you think and changes how you see the world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Wow.
That's what makes a great book different from just a good book,
Yeah.
It changes you somehow.
Okay, I'm sold. But how does it compare to other classics? Like To Kill a Mockingbird? They both talk about racism in the South, right?
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're both essential reading.
Okay.
But Huck Finn is like way more in your face.
Oh, interesting.
Like you're right there with Huck,
Yeah.
seeing everything through his eyes.
Okay.
To Kill a Mockingbird is more from a distance,
Oh, I see.
Like we're watching Scout as a kid.
So it's like a punch in the gut versus a slow burn.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, I like that.
They both work, but in different ways.
Okay.
Huck Finn really forces you to look at those tough questions and decide what you believe right alongside Huck.
You're really making me want to read this.
I am. I think it's a book everyone should at least try.
Okay.
It's not always fun.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding.
Okay, I'm adding it to my list.
I bet.
But for someone who's still not sure, what would you say to them?
Just go into it with an open mind. Be ready to be challenged.
Yeah.
Don't shy away from the hard parts.
Okay.
Embrace how complicated it is.
Yeah.
And you might learn something amazing about yourself and the world.
I love that. Embrace the complexity.
Right.
That's good advice for life in general.
Absolutely. And sometimes the toughest experiences are the ones that teach us the most.
Well, I think we made it through the murky waters of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
We did.
It's complicated. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But it's a really rewarding read.
For sure.
It shows us America's past and makes us think about what it means to be human.
Questions that are still important today.
Exactly. So if you were on the fence about reading this, I hope this deep dive helped.
Me too.
So grab a copy,
Yeah.
jump in, and see where the river takes you.
That's a great way to put it.
Until next time, happy reading. It's funny. We keep saying how tough this book is.
Yeah.
But you're making me kind of excited to read it.
I know, right?
Like to really dig in and wrestle with all that stuff.
That's what's so great about a book like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you easy answers.
Right.
It makes you ask more questions.
Yeah.
Gets you thinking, even though it was written like forever ago.
One thing I always worry about with these older books is the language.
Yeah.
Like, is Huckleberry Finn going to be full of words I need a dictionary for?
Twain definitely uses the way people talked back then.
Okay.
You'll hear all those Southern expressions and slang from before the Civil War.
Yeah.
But honestly, the story's so good. You just kind of pick up the language as you go.
Okay.
It really makes it feel real, you know?
So you don't think I need to, like, have a dictionary next to me the whole time?
Probably not. And even if you stumble over a word or two,
Yeah.
Twain's descriptions are amazing.
What do you mean?
Especially when he writes about the river.
The Mississippi.
Yeah, those parts are so vivid.
Wow.
It's like, you're right there. You can feel the mud and smell the air.
Okay, so you've convinced me on the language, the themes,
Yeah.
the history. But what about, like, the big picture? What do you think I'll get out of reading this?
I think you'll definitely understand American history better.
Yeah.
Especially all the complicated stuff about race back then.
Yeah.
But it goes even deeper than that. It makes you think about your own conscience, your own ideas of right and wrong,
Right.
and how those might go against what everyone else expects.
It's like more than just a story.
Right.
It's like an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an experience that sticks with you.
Wow.
And that's why Huckleberry Finn is so important.
Oh.
Even with all the tough stuff, even
Yeah.
if it makes some people uncomfortable,
Right.
it's earned its place as like a classic of American literature.
So for someone who's still on the fence about reading this, what's the one thing you'd say to convince them?
Don't be scared off by the controversy or the hard parts.
Okay.
Go in with an open mind.
Yeah.
Be ready to be challenged.
Okay.
And you might just find a story that changes how you see everything.
I love that. Go in with an open mind.
Right.
It's like Huck deciding to go down the river.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's going to find.
Exactly. And sometimes those surprises are the things that change us the most.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've explored Adventures of Huckleberry Finn,
We did.
a book that's tough but so rewarding.
Yeah.
It gives us a look at America's past and makes us ask some big questions about what it means to be human.
Questions we're still asking today.
Exactly. We hope this deep dive helped you decide if this classic is for you.
I hope so.
And if it is, grab a copy, get comfy, and get ready for a trip down the Mississippi.
Yeah.
One that'll stay with you long after you've finished the book.
You got it.
Until next time. Happy reading, everyone.